a woman must defeat 49 other unwilling participants of an underground fighting ring to save her daughter's life. In an unfamiliar empty room flooded by a red light, the bewildered Jamie wakes up on the floor and wonders where she is. She tries to open the door, but unbeknownst to the woman, someone watches her through a security camera feed. The night before, Jamie went on a first date with Adam, who asks if she really does medical claims as stated in her profile. Acknowledging that she doesn't seem like the type to have a mundane job, the woman admitted she's always dreamt of being a professional kickboxer and that she's been taking classes. She thought the date might laugh at her revelation, but to her pleasant surprise, he finds her dedication to the sport admirable. Later that night, the pair shared a kiss by Jamie's front door and the woman admitted that she likes Adam. Inside the house, she answered her friend's call and shared that her date was a gentleman who respected her choice not to spend the night together. While Jamie lay in the tub with her eyes closed, an intruder snuck into the bathroom and incapacitated her. In the present, the terrified woman wanders through the prison-like maze and runs into Sabrina, who's wearing the same tank top and sweatpants she is. Confused, she asks where they are, but the woman says they're in a similar predicament and that there's no way out from the way she came. Eventually, the pair end up in a circular room with brick walls all the way up to the high ceiling. Suddenly, a heavy steel door closes, trapping the woman inside. Jamie tries to pry the door open when she hears Sabrina apologizing for what she's about to do. Then, the woman starts aggressively attacking and she manages to kick her down. She sees a camera on the wall and begs for help, but nothing happens. Jamie asks Sabrina why she is trying to kill her, and all the woman says is because they have to. The brawl continues and the kickboxer gets the upper hand after placing her opponent in a chokehold. However, when she loosens the arm on the woman's neck, Sabrina retaliates with a headbutt that bloodies Jamie's nose and mouth. Realizing that she doesn't have a choice in the matter, the kickboxer musters the little strength she has left to get back on her feet. Unfortunately, it all proves futile when Sabrina throws her to the ground, breaks her arm, and pummels her face until she perishes. After the fight, the remorseful victor wails and asks how many more people she has to kill. Outside, Elizabeth helps her husband Joseph with his jacket and reminds him that it's almost time for his daily announcements. In her cell, Sabrina wakes up and remembers her daughter Megan as the guilt of taking Jamie's life continues to haunt her. Suddenly, a small TV on the wall turns on and Joseph starts announcing the results of the 7 fights that happened today. First, he recounts Patricia's loss and demise, leading to hired hitmen eliminating her parents. Then, he informs the victor, Cody, that because she won, her mother lives to see another day, implying that he threatens to kill their loved ones if they refuse to participate in the fights. Soon, Sabrina learns that Jamie was abducted as a replacement for Jennifer, who chose to take her own life by biting and severely injuring her wrists. Because she won, she's given temporary relief that Megan remains unharmed, as evidenced by a live feed from a hidden camera Joseph's group managed to sneak into the child's room. Later, Phoebe and Dee's cell doors open, alerting both that they're supposed to fight next. While making their way to the arena, Dee shares that they threatened to kill her sister, and her opponent says they said the same thing about her mother. During the brawl, the taller woman quickly incapacitates the brunette. Then, she places her knee on Dee's neck, and before finishing off the opponent, reveals that she has always hated her mother, implying that her motivation isn't due to the parent but because she wants to win. That evening, Sabrina asks Cody how she learned how to fight, and the latter says she saw her father beat her mother too many times until she couldn't take it anymore. Suddenly, the head guard, Kurtz, enters Sabrina's cell and commends the prisoner on the impressive first kill. The woman claims Megan isn't her daughter, and she doesn't care what happens to the child. The man thinks she's bluffing, then mentions the fact that just because she was a prisoner of war doesn't mean she is as tough as she lets on. Moments later, the guard takes the 6 initiates to Joseph's office and straps them down to individual chairs. While Kurtz explains that all their questions will be answered by the leader once he arrives, Sabrina spots a medieval flail on top of a table. After the guards leave, Teresa and Cody suggest working together to figure out an escape plan. However, Phoebe mocks their futile idea and says she'll win every fight because she actually enjoys killing people, unlike the rest of them. Then, Sabrina shuts down their friend's suggestion because she believes their captors are monitoring their every move. Moments later, Joseph and Elizabeth arrive and explain that the organization running the underground fighting ring has been around for several generations of the man's family. The woman points out Phoebe as her husband's pick to win it all, while hers is Sabrina. He continues that out of the 50 initiates, 22 prevailed, and they're expected to fight for 3 more days until a sole winner remains, whom they'll reward with freedom. On their way back to the cells, Phoebe riles up Sabrina by alluding that her daughter's gonna suffer a similar fate to hers, growing up in abusive foster homes. In the scuffle, the woman sneakily grabs the guard's pen without him noticing. The next day, the mentally unstable Brenda easily defeats Nancy in the arena. Meanwhile, Teresa and Cody continue brainstorming a plan to possibly subdue all 12 guards, but Sabrina reminds them of what their captors are capable of. She says she gave her daughter up for adoption 13 years ago and didn't even know what her name was. Yet, Joseph and his people managed to place a hidden camera in the child's room. She insists they need a better plan than simply believing they can overpower the guards and steal their guns. Moments later, Cody asks what'll happen if they end up having to fight each other, but neither friend answers. Suddenly, the woman hears Cody's door open, and soon she watches the friends fight on the TV screen. Through the screen, Sabrina coaches the woman even though she knows she can't hear her. She breathes a sigh of relief when her pal finally vanquishes the opponent. Later that day, the woman enters the elevator with her foe, Gloria. During the fight, the opponent tries distracting Sabrina by explaining that she's about to get married in a month. However, the mother remembers Megan and ultimately wins the match by choking Gloria with pieces of fabric. Even though she just fought, Sabrina's called down to the arena for another battle, which she also wins. Throughout the day, all the matches commence while a captivated audience of rich people watch and cheer on the fights in a ballroom. The night before, the woman talked to her daughter through the screen and said she was supposed to call her Samantha. She revealed that she never knew her father, and her mother said she was better off. However, she's always wanted to meet him and ask why he left her. Then, the fighter said she never would have made a good mother because she was broken during that moment in her life. After the match, Teresa and Cody see Sabrina's unconscious body through their TVs and sadly assume that she perished. To console the distraught friend, Teresa tells her that she can lose her loved ones any second, so she doesn't need to fight for her mother but for herself. Suddenly, the door opens for the woman's next match against Rachel. Before dying from strangulation, the opponent asks Teresa to tell her husband that she loves him. For the next fight, Brenda refuses to leave her cell, prompting the guards to contact Elizabeth, who's at the party. Meanwhile, Sabrina wakes up in the infirmary strapped to a table with an IV line in her arm. Minutes later, Elizabeth tries to encourage the initiate to cooperate for her mother's sake. However, the fighter headbutts the woman, who considers her unsalvageable and shoots her in the head. Because they're now down one woman, she informs Kurtz that they'll need a replacement. In the infirmary, Sabrina manages to remove the straps and sees a table full of knives by the wall. Due to her groggy state, she falls to the floor, and the employees use a taser to incapacitate her. The next day, the woman wakes in her cell, but when neither Teresa nor Cody answers when she calls their names, she realizes that they're both in the arena. Concurrently, the pair wonder what'll happen if they simply refuse to fight, but acknowledge the guards are going to kill them and their loved ones anyway. When Teresa asks how Cody's mother is, the latter takes this as a threat and throws the first hesitant punch. However, the woman explains that her husband's been on ventilation in the ICU for months, and at this point, death might be a blessing for him. She says that's why she asked if Cody's mother is in good health, suggesting that she'll sacrifice herself if it means saving a person who has a better quality of life compared to her husband. When the friend refuses to fight back, Teresa punches Cody until she strangles and ultimately takes the woman's life. From her cell, Sabrina watches as the guards take away the lifeless fighter's body. Suddenly, she hears Phoebe making her way to the elevator as Cody's next opponent, even though the distraught woman just fought. Before entering the carriage, the deranged fighter stops by Sabrina's door and taunts her that she won't get the chance to say goodbye to her pal before she kills her. In the arena, Phoebe torments her foe by asking how she took her father's life, and if he ever laid his hands on her the way he did her mother. At first, Cody manages to exchange blows with her opponent, but soon her fatigue sets in, and Phoebe easily subdues subdues her. In her cell, Sabrina helplessly watches her friends beating, so she looks up at the camera on the wall and says she wants to fight. To finish the match, Phoebe slams Cody on the brick wall and breaks her neck by dragging her head to the floor. Then, the victor demands to battle Sabrina next, and the woman screams the same sentiment to the guards. Kurtz approaches the door and says he'll give in to her request if she surrenders the pen she stole, revealing that the guards knew it was in her possession the whole time. Then, the man shows the woman a puncture wound scar on his neck and says she wasn't the first person who tried the pen trick. So the initiate grabs the object from the filthy commode and tosses it at Kurtz. Furious, the man says she'll get what she wants, to fight Phoebe, but they'll kill her daughter no matter what happens. Then, he returns to the surveillance room and opens the prisoner's door. Immediately, Sabrina sprints toward the elevator and rushes to the arena to exact revenge. She comes out swinging, raining a flurry of punches at the opponent. When she hears Phoebe's mocking laughter, she delivers a swift kick to the woman's head before launching several hard blows that eventually kill her foe. After the guards remove the lifeless woman's body, Kurtz announces that she'll remain in the arena to wait for her next match against Brenda's replacement, Isabel. Meanwhile, Joseph tells the audience that since the women are the last two remaining, whoever wins the fight will be the champion. Seeing the confused look on the newbie's face, Sabrina explains that she has to fight to the death or else they'll kill her husband. At first, Isabel refuses to engage, so the woman has no choice but to deliver the first blow. During the brawl, Sabrina grabs her opponent's head and whispers something in her ear. As she struggles to breathe with Isabel's arm around her neck, the woman orders her to perform the finishing move. After the match, the audience erupts in applause as they rejoice in finally crowning a champion. In the arena, Kurtz crouches as he observes Sabrina's lifeless body on the ground. Later, the guards strap Isabel to the chair in Joseph's office as she waits to meet the couple. In the infirmary, after the workers place Sabrina's body on a table, one man pays his colleague for losing a bet. Concurrently, Joseph and Elizabeth thank Kurtz for his service and tell him to head up to the party and entertain the guests with his many stories. Meanwhile, while the men were distracted, the fighter stole one of the knives on the table, so when he least expects it, Sabrina hacks his neck with a blade. When his colleague returns, the woman takes him down with the same weapon. Then, she grabs his keycard and taser before sneaking out of the room. She heads to the elevator, swipes the card, and eliminates the guard who's inside the carriage. In the office, the couple praises Isabel for an impressive performance against one of the tournament's favorites, and for successfully epitomizing the purest image of female prowess. Suddenly, Sabrina crashes into the room, knocks down Joseph, and kicks Elizabeth. Then, she uses the taser to incapacitate the man. Unfortunately, while the fighter helps Isabel with her restraints, Elizabeth bludgeons the champion with a medieval mace, ending her life. Sabrina asks the older woman how she could willingly partake in such a savage practice. Then, while Elizabeth stands by the window, she kicks her through the glass, causing her to fall to the arena several stories below. Enraged, Joseph pins the woman to the wall and says he'll allow Megan to live because he plans on eventually making her participate in the tournament once she comes of age. While the man strangles her, Sabrina grabs a sharp piece of wood on the floor and stabs his neck. After seeing that Isabel perished and she'll have to escape on her own, the fighter takes the flail. When the elevator doors open, the surprised Kurtz moves to grab his pistol, but Sabrina quickly knocks him down with a weapon. She bludgeons the man with a flail several times before ending his life with a blade through his head. Soon, she rides the elevator up to the ground level where she sees the party going on. Then, she takes the guards' pistols and shoots them both. The bloodied fighter walks through the room full of bewildered guests and eventually runs out the main doors. Her eyes adjust to the bright sunlight, and she tosses the weapons as she sprints along a wooden bridge. Suddenly, a bullet shoots through her chest, and it's revealed that Adam works as a sniper for the organization. He's tasked to go on dates with potential fighters or approach them at bars to make sure they've got backgrounds in combat sports. Then, he sneaks into their homes, abducts them during the night, and takes them back to the prison to unwillingly participate in the organization's barbaric tournament. During her final moments, Sabrina envisions her daughter gently touching her face and she smiles one last time.
Subscribe to watch more videos like this, turn on notifications and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.